7 rare powers of dark chosen ons that light ons never access. There's something you've always felt but never said out loud. You don't fit the mold. You've walked into rooms full of smiles and still felt the weight of being an outsider. You've carried visions too vast for small conversations. You've tasted depths that others run from. That's because you are not like them. You're a dark chosen one. And what makes you different is not just your scars, not just the storms you've survived. It's something far rarer, something that terrifies ordinary souls and even baffles the light-ons. The 7 powers you carry that they can never access. But let me warn you, these powers aren't handed to you wrapped in gold. They are forged in the furnace of everything you thought would break you. You didn't stumble upon them. You earned them through betrayal, through isolation, through nights where you wondered if God forgot your name. That pain wasn't random. It was initiation. And now, whether you realize it or not, you're carrying a force that bends reality in ways most people will never comprehend.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
So what's the first power? It's the ability to see in the dark, literally and metaphorically. Light-ons thrive when the sun is out, when everything is clear and affirming. But you navigate chaos like it's home. When others collapse in confusion, you sharpen. When life throws storms, you don't wait for shelter, you dance in the lightning. You can sense motives before words leave lips. You can feel lies hiding behind pretty smiles. You read the energy in a room before anyone opens their mouth. And let's be honest, sometimes you wish you couldn't. Sometimes you wish you could unsee, unfeel, unknow. But that's not an option anymore. You were chosen for the places angels fear to tread. Do you know why? Because only those who've touched darkness without drowning can guide others through it. But this gift is heavy, isn't it? Seeing the truth when everyone else is worshipping illusions, it's isolating. You watch people chase dreams that are prisons and clap for leaders who are liars. You want to scream, "Can't you see?" But you don't. You stay silent. Because you've learned that truth spoken to the blind turns into a blade against the seer. So you carry your knowing like a secret weapon. That's the cost of the first power. You're often alone in clarity. Can you bear that? Because if you can, no darkness can disarm you. The second power is even rarer. It's the ability to transmute pain into propulsion. Listen, everyone suffers, but most drown in it. They let it calcify into bitterness, into blame. You alchemize it. You take betrayal and turn it into vision. You take heartbreak and sculpt it into art. You take loss and let it carve out space for something greater. Do you realize how terrifying that makes you? The system can't control a soul that feeds on fire. They can strip you of titles, money, love, but somehow you rise higher. They wonder how you keep coming back after every fall. They don't know your secret. Every wound is a workshop where you forge your next level. That's why life hits you harder. It's shaping a weapon, not a toy. But let me ask you, have you really embraced this? Or are you still resenting the very storms designed to crown you? And then comes the third power, the one that makes people envy you without knowing why. It's the magnetism born of shadow. Light-ons glow like candles. They're beautiful but predictable. You're a black flame. You draw people in not because you're loud, but because your depth is intoxicating. They feel something around you they can't name, a mix of danger and divinity, a sense that you've walked through hell and came back with secrets no book could teach. And that's true, isn't it? You carry frequencies earned in places others never survived. But here's the catch: this magnetism is double-edged. It attracts brilliance and parasites. Lovers who crave your depth, but fear drowning in it. Friends who sip your energy like wine, but vanish when the bottle runs dry. That's why you've learned to guard your space like a fortress. And if you haven't yet, you better start. because this power will destroy you if you don't master discernment. Pause here. Breathe. Do you feel these truths punching through your chest? Do they sound like descriptions or confessions? Because if they do, listen closely, this is only the beginning. These first three powers are the surface. Beneath them lie forces so raw they can alter destinies, yours and everyone tied to you. Powers that can collapse timelines, break ancestral chains, and create empires from nothing but will. But these forces come with prices that would crush most souls. And in the next part, I'm going to pull back the veil on those deeper powers, the ones so rare that even light-ons tremble at their name. So ask yourself, are you ready to know why you've been through what you've been through? Are you ready to hear the reason your life looks nothing like theirs? Because after what I reveal next, you'll never curse your darkness again, you'll weaponize it. The forbidden powers, and why only the dark chosen ones can survive them. The world loves to romanticize power, doesn't it? They think it comes with glory, applause, and crowns. They imagine it as something clean, glowing, wrapped in light. But the truth they can't swallow is this. Real power is born in darkness. It is ugly before it's beautiful. It demands sacrifices that would make ordinary souls collapse. And that's why these next powers belong only to the dark chosen ones. Not because you asked for them, but because you proved you could hold them without breaking. The fourth power is the one that separates you from almost everyone, the ability to absorb chaos without becoming it. Light-ons scatter when storms hit, they hide in temples, in affirmations, in sanitized spirituality that avoids the mess. But you don't flinch. You walk into rooms thick with tension, families cracking under secrets, businesses bleeding from betrayal, and while others panic, you go still. It's not because you don't feel the weight. You feel it all. But you've learned something they haven't. Chaos is just raw energy waiting for a master to mold it. You've stared into disorder so long you see patterns inside it. And because of that, you can transform breakdown into breakthrough, ruin into resurrection. Do you realize how rare that is? Most people drown in uncertainty. You dive into it and come back holding treasure. But this power comes with its own curse. The world will make you its crisis manager, friends dumping their drama on you, lovers clinging when their lives implode, even strangers sensing your strength and bleeding on your energy. You've lived this, haven't you? People call you their anchor, but forget anchors sink if they're never lifted. So the question is, will you let chaos be your calling or your coffin? Because if you don't learn boundaries, this power that elevates you will eventually erase you. The fifth power. It's darker, sharper, and it terrifies even you when it awakens. The power to weaponize shadow. Light-ons run from their darkness. They hide their rage behind mantras, their envy behind smiles. But you've met your shadow in the underworld and made peace with its teeth. That means when life calls for war, when someone tries to chain your soul, when injustice claws at what you love, you don't collapse into victimhood. You summon that shadow and wield it like a blade. Your anger becomes strategy. Your pain becomes precision. Your scars become shields. Do you understand how dangerous that makes you in a world addicted to pretense? People fear you not because you're cruel, but because you can't be controlled. They sense you've made an alliance with what they spend their lives denying. But let me ask you something raw. Have you mastered this alliance, or is it mastering you? Because shadow isn't evil, but it is primal. If you let it lead unchecked, power becomes poison. You'll burn bridges meant to hold you. You'll turn war into a lifestyle instead of a weapon of necessity. This is why wisdom is your oxygen now. The stronger your fire, the deeper your discipline must go, or you'll torch your own throne. And then comes the sixth power, the one that makes the universe itself take a step back, the ability to bend energy at will. You've felt glimpses of this, haven't you? Moments where you spoke something in raw conviction and reality rearranged. Days when you woke heavy with dread and everything collapsed, or mornings where you radiated clarity and doors flew open like magic. That's not coincidence. That's frequency. That's you bending the unseen currents most people drown in. But here's the unspoken law: the higher your influence, the heavier the accountability. Every thought becomes a seed. Every word becomes a spell. Every emotion becomes a blueprint. Which means mediocrity could be lethal for you now. Negativity isn't just bad for your mood, it architects disasters. This is why your life demands brutal self-awareness. You can't afford sloppy energy when the cosmos obeys your vibration. But here's the question you've been avoiding: do you believe you deserve this power? Because if you don't, it will eat you alive. You'll self-sabotage every blessing, torch every opportunity, shrink every miracle with guilt. And that's how darkness wins, not by stealing your power, but by convincing you to bury it. Pause and feel that. Let it sink in. Because these 6 powers are not gifts, they are responsibilities disguised as burdens. They will either elevate you into sovereignty or drag you into self-destruction. Which side you fall on depends on one final force, the 7th power, the rarest of them all. It's the crown jewel of dark chosen ones, the one ability that makes everything else make sense. And in the next part, I'm going to reveal it. But I warn you, this last power is not glamorous. It's not about dominance or magnetism. It's something far more dangerous because it rewrites the entire game of reality. The ultimate power, and why it demands the death of who you think you are. You've walked through fire. You've danced with chaos. You've stared into your own abyss and didn't flinch. And now, here it is, the 7th power. The one ability that eclipses all others, the force that makes gods out of mortals, the gift that even light ons can't fathom. It's not domination. It's not influence. It's something far more terrifying: the power to dissolve yourself. Read that again. The final power is ego death on command. The ability to let go, not when life rips something from your hands, but when you choose. This is the rarest power because it looks like weakness to those who can't comprehend it. To abandon identities you fought to build. To release attachments you thought were oxygen. To kill the self you spent decades constructing. They can't imagine it. They cling to illusions like lifeboats praying storms don't come. But you burn the boats before the storm hits. That's why the universe trusts you with realities others will never see. Because creation bends to those who are willing to die for it, not in body, but in identity. Let's be brutally honest, most people worship permanence. They tattoo beliefs into their bones. They wrap their worth in titles, lovers, traditions. And then they wonder why their lives collapse when the inevitable change comes. You've learned the only law worth obeying: nothing is yours, and that's your freedom. You can walk away from what everyone else would kill to keep. Why? Because you understand the paradox: control is an illusion, but surrender is sovereignty. When you stop clutching at forms, reality pours new shapes into your hands. That's why you've survived losses that would have broken others. That's why doors open for you after destruction. You don't fight endings, you master them. But let's dig deeper. Why does this matter? Because this is the power that keeps all your other abilities from becoming your curse. You can absorb chaos, but if you can't release the self who thrives on chaos, you'll live addicted to storms. You can weaponize shadow, but if you can't drop the warrior when peace arrives, you'll burn your own kingdom. You can bend energy, but if you can't let go of the identity that needs control, your power will twist into tyranny. Ego death is not a moment. It's a muscle. And the dark chosen ones who master it become untouchable, not because nothing can hurt them, but because nothing can chain them. Now, let me ask you the question that divides the ordinary from the sovereign. What would you become if nothing in this world could define you? No past, no reputation, no roles, Could you breathe in that kind of emptiness, or would it feel like drowning? Because that is the doorway to the ultimate power. It's not glamorous. It's not Instagram-worthy. It feels like annihilation before it feels like liberation. You'll wake up some morning stripped of meaning, staring into the hollow where your old self used to live, and your ego will scream, grab something, build something, be someone. But if you can resist that reflex, if you can sit in the void without flinching, you will hear the whisper light ons never hear. Now you're ready to create as the infinite, not the imprisoned. And when that clicks, something wild happens. Time stops being a cage. Reality stops being rigid. You stop hustling for scraps of certainty because you know you can dissolve and rebuild as many times as you want. You can reinvent without guilt, love without chains, lead without needing to be worshipped. Do you understand how dangerous that makes you? A soul who fears nothing, not loss, not rejection, not death of the self, is a soul the world cannot bribe or break. That's why this power is the crown jewel. That's why you were dragged through every storm, so you'd learn to let go before life forced you to. But here's the warning: this power isn't unlocked by theory. You can't read your way into it. You can't affirm it into existence. You have to die for it. Again and again. You have to let the old you burn, not once, but whenever life calls for it. And most will run. They'll cling to the ashes and call it home. Will you? Or will you become what you were always meant to be, a shapeless force playing with form instead of being enslaved by it? In the final part, I'm going to show you what life looks like when this ultimate power fuses with the other six. The world calls it magic. The mystics call it mastery. I call it the era of the dark chosen ones, the ones who walk among kings and queens yet answer to no crown but their own soul. Are you ready to see what that existence feels like? Because if you are, brace yourself. The next chapter isn't about survival. It's about domination, not over others, but over the illusions that have ruled humanity for centuries. The era of the unstoppable, what happens when all seven powers ignite. Imagine this for a second. Every shadow you feared, every scar you cursed, every night you thought would kill you, they weren't breaking you. They were programming you, forging you for a level of existence most people will never glimpse, let alone touch. And now, after everything, the seven rare powers of the dark chosen ones converge. When that happens, you don't just live, you dominate reality on a frequency so rare it bends the rules for you. What does it look like? It looks like walking into storms without trembling because you've mastered chaos and made it your element. While the world spirals in confusion, you remain still, not passive, but sovereign, because your eyes see what others miss, patterns hiding in disorder, doors hidden in disaster. That's the first power fused with the second, seeing in the dark and transmuting pain into propulsion. When those two dance, every setback becomes an altar. Every betrayal becomes blueprint. You stop asking, why me? And start declaring, watch me. Then add the third power, the magnetism born of shadow. Do you understand what that means? You no longer chase. You radiate. You pull opportunities, resources, alliances, because your energy speaks louder than your words. People feel you before they hear you. They sense something feral and wholly intertwined. They can't explain it, but they're drawn like iron to a hidden magnet. And yes, the parasites will still come. But now you wield the fourth power, the ability to absorb chaos without becoming it. So instead of drowning in their drama, you redirect it. You turn noise into notes. You become a conductor in a world of static. And then the fifth power, weaponized shadow. This is where things get lethal for mediocrity. You don't start wars, but when life drags you into one, you don't swing blindly. You strike with precision, strategy sharpened by scars. Your darkness doesn't own you, it obeys you. While others crumble under rage or guilt, you ride those forces like a black stallion, charging through gates that fear built. That's why systems fear souls like yours. You've made peace with your monsters, so they can't use them against you. Now picture the sixth power kicking in the command of energy itself. Do you realize what that does? You become a living blueprint for reality. Your thoughts draft the architecture. Your emotions power the grid. Your words stamp the design. That's why your presence shifts rooms, why plans unravel when you withdraw, why visions manifest when you align. It's not magic, it's mastery. And here's the paradox: the more you own this, the less you flaunt it. Because real power whispers. It doesn't beg for validation. It bends the invisible and lets the visible catch up. And then the crown jewel, the seventh power, self-dissolution on command. This is the axis on which everything turns. When identity becomes fluid, nothing cages you. You can burn an old version without mourning. You can reinvent without fear. While others cling to titles, tribes, traditions, you shapeshift through timelines like smoke through fingers. This makes you unstoppable, because control loses its grip when there's nothing left to control. How do you break someone who isn't attached to who they were yesterday? How do you threaten a soul that's willing to die for its next evolution? You can't. And that's why the era of the dark chosen ones terrifies the old world. It can't trap what keeps transcending. So what happens when all seven powers ignite? The answer is simple but seismic. You stop living reactively and start architecting reality. You become the blueprint others copy without knowing. You speak and dimensions rearrange. You love without chains, lead without ego, create without fear. Not because you've escaped the dark, but because you own it. The light didn't save you. The dark didn't destroy you. You walked through both and came out crowned in equilibrium. But here's the truth you must swallow like fire. This isn't the end of struggle. This is the beginning of responsibility. Power this vast doesn't let you hide in comfort. It drags you into arenas where your frequency decides the fate of more than just you. That's why the final question isn't, do you have these powers? You already do. The question is, will you master them or will they master you? Because unchecked, they'll consume you. But aligned, they'll make you immortal not in body, but in legacy. So what now? Will you shrink back into the softness of illusions, pretending you didn't hear this truth? Or will you rise fully, fiercely, finally, and claim what existence has been sculpting in your bones since the beginning? The world isn't waiting for your permission. It's waiting for your ignition. And when you light up, understand this, even eternity will take a knee. Welcome to the era of the dark chosen ones. It's time to reign not as kings chained to thrones, but as architects of realities no one else dares to dream.